So we're joined by Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager of the Falcons, and we're catching up with Thomas Dimitroff today at his home in suburban Atlanta as he takes a break preparing for the draft. Now, Thomas, take us into your yard.
Peter, thanks for having me, by the way. And by the way, just so you know, I think you started this off by saying you look like an aging rock star. And we've always been told through this whole process that this is a chance of really letting people see the inside, right? So when we're in the middle of meetings with Arthur Blank and Rich McKay and Steve Cannon and the rest of our people, we're encouraged to be ourselves. We got kids on our shoulders sometimes and pets in the background and et cetera, et cetera. So I wasn't going to dress up for you today. I thought, we've done some funny things in the past, right? Where we've ridden all over the state, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to try to flip this and see if I can flip you around here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's your pool.
Sandals and socks. It's good. Yeah. So my pool, and I have that little house over there with a TV in it, of course, because any days that we're not playing, we're on bye weeks or something happens, we're out here trying to relax every once in a while. So, but I've held a number of my Zoom meetings and Teams, Microsoft Teams meetings around here. So we've just kind of hung out and tried to take in as much as we can and be as present as we can. So let me just flip this back around here.
Where is this home, Thomas? Where do you live exactly?
So I'm in what's called Morningside. It's just a couple neighborhoods from Buckhead in Atlanta, and I was living, as you know, the last time you visited me at my house. I think. Well, we won't even get into that story. We talked about it way too many times. Gosh, isn't that amazing? 13 years ago, when you were in there, you don't need to tell the story again, I'm sure. But that was in Buckhead, and I'm over in Morningside now. And just enjoying it here. Completely different mode here. This is a little closer to Virginia Highlands. Not as business as Buckhead is, but I really enjoy the area. Again, I showed you from afar. There's just some open space in behind, and it's enjoyable out here.
Do you still get to ride your bike as much as you want to?
Not as much as I want to, but obviously, with what's happening in this world right now. And by the way, I mean, talk about it all the time. I'm out here and I'm trying to, put myself in a different spot and trying to focus on draft preparation and keeping the team together and leading properly. You lose track of what you guys are all dealing with up there. We all are, of course, but where you are, you lose track sometimes, right? Because you don't feel it as much here. And God bless all the health workers and everything that's going on here. I mean, it's outrageous. And we think about it all the time, and we don't lose track of it as we're preparing for a draft. Believe me, every once in a while we go in and out of it all, but it's tough on the soul. I know that. And you guys are right in the middle of it, Peter. I can't imagine.
I'm curious now. Is it on your mind day to day, Thomas, when you go through your job?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, it goes in waves. Sometimes we're in the middle of meetings, and Dan and I meet every morning, probably from 8 to noon, watching video together on a Teams format. Talk about the players we're looking at, the draft situation, et cetera, et cetera. During those times, I lose track of it a little bit. Taking the inventory at the middle of the day or in between meetings, no question it enters my mind. I have two beautiful children that I'm thinking about all the time, of course, and fiance and her family that I'm concerned about, and so yes, I do think about it.
How difficult has it been to do your job at what is sort of one of the most biggest pressure times of the year for you guys?
I know there have been all kinds of comments, and I mean, I've seen the quotes from Bill Polian, and I've seen Scott Pioli's quotes and other people talking about it. I mean, I think in the end, if you're prepared, if you have a good scouting staff and process in place, and you're confident with what you and your head coach are doing as a general manager and a head coach from a building standpoint, I feel confident where we are. I've said this recently, as much as everyone would like more time. I mean, if they moved it up 10 days, I'd be ready to draft. And I think our organization would do a fine job in doing it. So again, this all comes back to a lot of preparation from a scouting staff. Steve Sabo, our personnel director, and Anthony Robinson, our college director, who continue to tee Dan and I up with a lot of really good things. So we're ready to go. And of course, the process is going to be tough, Peter. You can imagine. I'll show you in a few minutes. I mean, what's set up here? We actually have to draft from our own homes. Unbelievable. It was back and forth, as you followed, of course. That was complicated. We either thought we were going to be up in Flowery Branch in our draft room with 5 or 6 people, and then it changed where we were going to be in a hotel or down in Arthur's home office. And then in the end, they decided that we were each going to be in our own places. No one was able, of course, and allowed and legally as well to get together. So, we're allowed to have one technology guy in each of our houses. So mine, Dan Quinn's, Rich McKay's, Arthur Blank's. I joked with Arthur the other day, again, very respectfully to what's going on. I said, look, I don't think you can, pass it by being you and your 2 sons being out there in hazmat suits, hanging around my porch, jumping in and out of the draft room here. But suffice it to say, we'll have a great, camera set up for him to follow everything that I and we are doing.
Do you think it's going to impact who you draft and how you draft?
I don't think it's going to impact who we draft. As far as how we draft, as far as, will it dissuade certain people from being as active as, in the trade element of all this draft? Maybe. I have said recently, Peter, that I believe people are going to be on the phones, that week before, setting things up contingent wise and situational situations. We'll be talking about that, compensation, ideas. Obviously, nothing would be cast in stone, but I don't think there's going to be as much impromptu trading on draft day just because of the security of it all.
Yeah, I was looking at this today. I mean, John Schneider has made 26 trades in the last 3 drafts. And, he trades just like he breathes. And I just wonder how you're going to be able to, to trade, to be as active as a guy like that. You think things like that will be impacted?
Yeah, when we were talking about that, and there was discussions about, with the general manager's advisory committee and the league office, and discussing time and again the processes, when there was any insinuation that maybe we would adjust the ability to trade, you can imagine, not to speak for John, but there were people that spoke up very quickly about no, that's what we do, we trade. And honestly, this generation of general managers is very active in trading, and I can't imagine us sitting back on our hands, as a group. It's an aggressive group.
One other thing about your particular situation. So at this stage of your team's development, obviously you need, as do many teams in the league, you need a bunch of, budget price players to be able to make your team, as almost every team does every year. But do you go into this also thinking that the undrafted free agent market is particularly important in a year like this? And how will you handle that after the 7th round on Saturday?
I mean, for us as an organization, of course, our situation, you followed it. We were creative and had to be, we also were aggressive this off season, contrary to what most people thought because of our financial situation, at least what was perceived. We got creative, we restructured, we were able to bring in 3 free agents that we thought, were players that were going to add to our starting caliber offense and defense, with Hayden Hurst, of course, in the trade, and Dante Fowler, as well as Todd Gurley coming in, which, those are all, legitimate moves for us. Flip it around. We have 6 picks in the draft that we think we're focused in on well. And it's going to be important for us to make sure we're going to have probably, Peter, between 22 and 25, maybe, undrafted college free agents that we'll be looking at, give or take. And we're going to have to be ready for it. We're going to have to set up our own sort of epicenter of college free agency as well. I'm not going to be able to manage that from my house, at the back end of this draft. We're going to have our college directors and our pro directors working together with the coaches and the scouts, talking about a lot of what's going to happen at the back end of the draft. And that'll start in round 5. So we're still going to be busy prepping for the draft while our free agency, is working and formulating. Of course, you can't get a deal done until the draft ends, but it's going to be important for us.
You're in sort of an interesting situation in your draft. You've got 5 picks in the top 135, and then you've only got 1 after that. So basically, in like the back half of the draft, you've got 1 pick. So you'll probably be able to spend quite a bit of time just preparing for that undrafted free agent process.
Yeah, there's no question we will. I think we'll be aggressive about it. I think we're also very mindful about it, though. We always have from year to year, Peter, as far as, our budget for that group. We're I would say we're right down the middle of it. We're not one of those teams that starts throwing money around during that process as much. We're mindful of it. We have some money to do that. And of course it's mandated in the league that you have X amount of dollars that you can spend in that area. But what I will say, which is really interesting, probably is for your listeners, when there was discussion about potentially delaying this, the college free agency side of it, or do we adjust it? Do we limit it? Again, the same thing was, we're going full force with it. We're going to manage it. We're going to deal with it. And as you know, there are times when that process can be mayhem. There's a lot going on and a lot of people and a lot of teams and coaches, competing for the same players. For us to wait for 2 days or 5 days or a couple of weeks, you and I both know that would never happen. I just think there would be so much work on the back end and on the other side of it that I just think you're opening yourself up for a lot of complications and chicanery probably.
I just want to get one more update before we go in and look at Thomas Dimitroff Draft Central, and that is, what are you expecting to get out of Todd Gurley, who basically is this sort of hometown hero, a Georgia Bulldog who left and now gets to come home. I remember going to a game in your stadium last year, and it was against the Rams. And there were more people in the stands, I think, that had Todd Gurley jerseys than had Julio Jones jerseys. So he's a beloved figure where you are. What are you expecting out of him?
Well, our expectations from the beginning, what are and were when we first even started talking to him, was that he was going to be coming in and he was going to be a really important part of our running back group. We feel that we have some good football players in that area, some young, some evolving. Different traits. Big guy. We have guys who are fast and stop-start guys, and we feel he brings, the ability to have the total package. We all know what he is. When he's running and he's in a good place, he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, he can pass protect. He's got a very good eye. He's the guy that scores touchdowns for us as well in our minds. So we're expecting significant contributions from him, and we had more coverage on that acquisition than any that we've ever had since we've been in the digital media mode. And, I don't know if you saw the other day, he came out and he decided he was going to be wearing number 21, and they already mocked him up in the new jerseys. And yeah, it looks pretty badass, to be honest with you.
You think he's healthy?
Yeah, we're hoping that he is, and he's the kind of guy that's going to be working on his body and staying as healthy as possible and rehabbing where he needs to rehab. Again, I've made comments about this. We are comfortable with where he is. We have yet, obviously, to put our hands on him as an organization, but we do have all the information from the Rams. So we're in a good spot as far as the information that we do have, and can't wait for him to get out here and start practicing with our guys when the time is right, of course.
Hey, can we see your draft headquarters?
Yeah, let me flip this around. Let's see if we can. Let me go in here for a minute. And I know you did this. Yeah, we're. I don't know. There's stuff everywhere out here. Footballs and Nerf guns that I'm tripping over, and Nerf gun bullets and everything. So let me just flip this around here. See if I can. All right. Yeah, last time you were visiting me, it was a different place.
Yep.
Go back here. I do a lot of work here, just by the way, just on my iPad all the time when I'm close to my. Well, you would appreciate this. Okay, check this out.
Wow.
This is called Rocket, and it's from Milano. And my buddy David Brailsford, I've mentioned him before, the head of, used to be Team Sky and all those Tour de France's, and now he's with Team Ineos, by the way. And Ineos is the big powerhouse in cycling and other sports, of course, in the UK. He sent me this. I probably valued at $5K. The reason he sent it to me is he was visiting me, and he had no good coffee around, and he was like all over me about the fact that you will learn to be a barista. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. I would never be able to afford this piece of machinery. Luckily, he was able to send it to me. I know you'd appreciate that because of your coffee aficionado approach.
Yeah, I'm a coffee nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start here. I have 3 screens on the wall here. This front screen, of course, is going to be where, well, it's BBC right now, but it's going to be where we are, with the networks. Each side of these screens are going to be set up with the, what would be on the walls in the draft room, basically, needs board, potentially, and where we are with the round by round. By the way, has
that been set up yet by your IT guy?
They are, yes, they have done a great job. I'm really proud of where they are right now. We made it as clean lines as possible. That's what I appreciate design-wise anyway. I don't like a whole bunch of clutter on top of that, but they've made it very clean. We have some basics as far as technology, very good technology, but what we didn't do is we didn't add a whole bunch of extra bells and whistles. We want to make sure that we're as clean as possible. Down here, of course, both AFC and NFC lines are already pre-programmed. That's obviously what we're going to be using to do some work, communicating with the scouting staff and Arthur and such. So again, you saw this blue. This is what I call my throne. It's the only place in the world that anyone treats me like a king. Believe me, nowhere else in this world, and definitely not in the media here in Atlanta. But anyway. But yeah, so it's going to be set up sort of like that. I'm going to be in a situation where we have draft boards are going to be here. Those are 28-inch screens, touch screens, so I can operate there, work trades from here. As you can see, right now we have the round by round stuff up there and everything. So really, really excited about the setup here. I think it's going to be functioning well. This is going to be. How different
is this from your normal draft room?
What's that? How different?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, right here within the confines of my 10-foot world, probably not much more. I mean, I would say, obviously it's a lot smaller and scaled down, but it literally is what I have, in the draft room. So, again, like I had mentioned, we are permitted to have one technology guy in our house. I will sequester him down in the basement. And I will make sure that, he goes in and out the downstairs door. Hopefully I'm not needing him at all, but the reality is we need to have him here just in case. I think the league has done a really good job communicating with us recently about what happens on the timing if something does go a minute or two over because of technological glitches. That's something that we need to make sure that we have in place, as you can imagine. So,
so really your IT guy is going to exit and enter right in the basement?
Yeah, he's gonna exit and enter. Interestingly enough, he's gonna exit and enter downstairs. I am actually what I'm going to do. Bear with me for a second here. I am gonna close all my doors off, so like he can enter through here. By the way, you like this room? He can enter here. He can do some. He can hit the bag if he's frustrated because he's sequestered down here. But basically what he's going to do is he's going to hang out down here. I have a 100-inch down here that he's going to be doing some work from probably. And so this is where he'll enter. And, he won't even communicate with me unless I truly need his help.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Were you a little bit surprised that some of your peers were kind of grousing about having to hustle into the draft and maybe being alone on the day of the draft?
You know what? I know everyone is different, right? I mean, I do understand that the league had a lot on their hands, and as far as decisions, we all did, as well as team builders, ourselves as co-team builders with general managers and head coaches. I think that was important. I know that everyone has, sorry, 1 second here. I think everyone is, some people get really agitated with it. As you can imagine, there was some outcry about, the health of everyone, people coming into the houses. You've been reading that probably. Yeah. But I think after everyone took a deep breath on it, they realized we have to all be adaptable. No question about it. And I've thought about that the whole time. And, the league has reasons for doing what they're doing. And I don't mean to play it right down the middle, but the reality is, we can give our opinions, and that's important. But there are people way above our pay grade that are going to make the decisions on it. And, it's been productive that way. We've had a lot of talks. And of course, Rich being on the competition committee has been helpful, to continue to talk to him about things. And he continues to take it to, of course, Roger and Jeff Pash, et cetera, et cetera.
I want to ask you 3 draft-related questions, talent in this draft. When you look at this draft, I keep hearing about the receiver group being so good. Quarterbacks at the top are very good. How do you analyze this draft as a whole? And as you look at it, how does it differ from drafts that you've seen?
Well, first on the strengths of the draft, if I talk about that, I mean, I think offensively, as you know, that receiver group is a really interesting group. And honestly, not only at the top of it, I think Eric DeCosta made a comment the other day that, you could draft some starters in the 5th and 6th rounds. And I would agree with them. There are some really good football players that can stretch it, and are capable athletes that are interesting there. I'd say the reality that you have, a handful of centers as well as some tackles in this group. It's going to be an interesting line group in the first two rounds, honestly, as well. I think you flip it over to defense. This is a first year. We were going through some meetings yesterday. I mean, it is amazing to look at the interior D linemen, Peter. You know that. There's usually a dearth of those guys. At least in numbers, and it just seems like you might have 1 or 2 here and there. This year, I mean, the numbers are unbelievable, both at nose tackle and defensive tackle, in my mind. So, and then of course there's a corner group that's pretty stellar as far as numbers. So I think it's a good draft. I think you can pull out some really positive players that are going to affect your team from the 1st and 2nd round on as well. So I think we're in a good place.
When you look at this, do you think it's one of these drafts that you could see you guys? I mean, you're always pretty active in the draft. Do you feel like that any of the new factors in this draft, the fact that you'll be alone there, will that have any bearing on whether you move up or down a lot?
No, I don't think so. We're at 16, as you know. As I mentioned to you, I mean, our situation is, and I say this every year, but, we are at 16. We acquired 3 in free agency that took us out of the focus on some of those spots. Not that we would not still draft in those areas, of course, because we, as you know, are needs-based, but we also are needs-based with the best talent on the board during that time. The ability for us to move forward and to move back is very real this year. I think a lot of people are thinking they could be back in the 20s and continue to pick the people that are going to be, impact players for them this year. So suffice to say that I do like being right in the middle of that round, because I think there are always people knocking on your door, and I am open to it. I know most people say, T, you say that every year and you never trade back. And I guess if you look there, yes, we have not traded back a whole bunch since I've been here.
And I'll close with this. I mean, look at the world that you're living in right now, and doing what's going to happen on draft weekend. And I wonder, there's going to be a telethon with this draft as well. What would be your hope that this draft would accomplish, aside from just picking players?
Well, look, I mean, I know, bigger picture in the scope of everything is so minimal, and I understand that. I think for us, picking players and putting together the team, of course, is our number one goal. We want to do what's right for this our owner, of course, and for the fan base. Bigger picture, of course. I mean, I think it's something that's going to allow people to focus on something sport related, and it's still an exciting time. I have heard that it may be 5x plus coverage on something like this. So, in a world where there's not much going on, I think it'll provide a little bit of relief in itself. I mean, I hate to even say that because it feels like it's a little overplayed. But the more people I talk to, the more people are excited about jumping into this during, the third week of April.
Thomas Dimitroff, General Manager of the Atlanta Falcons. Thanks so much for joining me.
Always enjoy it. Thank you, Peter.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.